So now we'll talk about making patterns in Fusion 360, and these patterns actually help us in making similar kind of objects along different geometrical shapes, like rectangular pattern along a rectangle, circular pattern along a circle, and path pattern along any kind of path. So we'll start with the rectangular pattern, and for this I'll use this plate drawing, and here we have this hole. We want to make multiple patterns of this hole along this rectangular plate. Now for that, I'll go to create flyout. I'll select pattern and rectangular pattern. Alright, now here we have multiple options in the rectangular pattern panel. We have faces, bodies, features, and components. You can select from any of these. In this case, we need to select faces because this hole is just a face. So I'm going to click here and the face is now selected. Now for the direction, you can select the edges. So I'll click on this direction arrow, and now I'll click on one of these edges. So now the edge is selected. So this will be the direction of array. And since this is a rectangular pattern, the second direction will be this one, which is along 90 degrees with respect to this original one. So we have the two arrows, and using these two arrows, you can add the pattern like this. So just move this array, it will add multiple objects. Also, if you move it along this line, you'll have the array along this line as well. Now, currently the distance type is extent, and the total distance from first to last object is shown here. It's 44.993 mm. If you want to change it, and if you just want to specify distance between two corresponding objects, you can select spacing, and now the gap between two corresponding objects or two nearest objects will be selected. In this case, I'll keep extent selected here. Now we have a checkbox called suppress. If you keep this checkbox selected, Fusion will allow you to suppress a few of these features. For example, in this case, we have all of these checkboxes here, and let's say you don't want some of these holes here. For example, we don't want this one. You can just simply uncheck it, and now you'll only have holes, all of these holes, but not this one. It will be suppressed. So that's the suppress feature. Now coming on to the quantity. So we have 3 rows and 3 columns, and you can change this pretty easily using this quantity option in the row and column. So you can just decrease this if you want just 4 of these objects here along 2 columns, and row quantity is still 3. You can just increase or decrease it if you want. So in this case, I'm going to uncheck suppress, and I'll keep number of rows at 2, columns, let's increase it to 3, and let's check the suppress option and bring this hole here. So we want all of these, and once you're satisfied with this pattern, you can see the preview here clearly. Once you're satisfied with this, click on OK, and you'll have the rectangular pattern just like this. In this case, we made the pattern using hole, but you can make patterns using extruded bodies as well. Now let's move on to the circular pattern. For circular pattern, I'll use this drawing, and this one is pretty twisted kind of shape here, and we'll make circular pattern from this. Now to make the pattern, the first thing is we need to define the axis of rotation. Currently we don't have any axis here, so let's first define it. And to do that, I'll go to create sketch. I'll select this plane. You can select any other plane if you want, but I'm going to select this one for this case, and I'll create a sketch at maybe this distance. All right, and I'll convert this into a construction geometry. So I'll select it and I'll type X. Now this one is a construction geometry. I'll click on stop sketch. Now we can convert this into circular pattern. So again, create pattern and circular pattern, and in the pattern type, we've already seen faces. Now it's time to select something else. Now this thing is a complete body made with different features. So I'm going to select bodies, and I'll select this complete body here. Now for the axis, well, we need to select this one. We already created this axis. So I'll select this, and we have this pattern with 3 objects. Let's increase this. So I'll just increase this number, and you can either click on these arrows or you can type in the value as well. So maybe let's type 18 here. So here is the pattern. So this is what you will end up with with this kind of circular pattern. Here also we have the suppress option. If you want to suppress any of these features, you can suppress, and currently the rotation is full rotation. You can change it to angle and then specify the angle only up to which you want to rotate this. And you can also select symmetric. So when you select symmetric, it will rotate it along both the directions from your selected object. So this is the selected object, and if you rotate it along this direction, the second direction will always automatically follow the first direction. So let's move back to full, and we have 18 objects. I'm going to click on OK, and this is what we'll end up with. A beautiful shape with minimum effort. And that's the circular pattern. Now finally, let's have a look at the path pattern. For the path pattern, I'll use this drawing, and in this case we have this plate and we have this extruded object, and we want to make multiple copies of this object along this path. To do that, well, I'll go to create, pattern, and path pattern. Alright, now we have seen faces, we've already seen bodies. This time I'll select features, because this thing is a feature, the extruded feature, and this one is fillet feature. So I'll select both of these. You can select from here or from browser or from timeline. It's up to you. In this case, I'll select it from here. So I'll select both of these. Two of these features are selected. Now path, well, this is the path. All right. Now using arrow, move it out, and we just have 3 objects as usual. We can increase the number. So maybe just let's make it 12 or 11. Or maybe a smaller value like 9. So 9. All right. Now I'm going to move it along this path, and you'll clearly notice that it will just follow the path and will have the feature along this path like this. So it's not a rectangular pattern. It's not a circular pattern either. It's just a pattern along this path. Now you can see the distance here. It's 289.156 mm. If you want to offset the starting point, you can add that offset distance here. And once again, this distance is the distance between the first and the last object, this distance. But if you want to change it to the distance between 2 nearest objects, then you can change it to spacing. We're not going to do that. Also, we have all the other options like one direction or symmetrical. Right now, we are making path along just one direction. If you want to make it along the second direction as well, you can just select it. Now, once you are done with this, click on OK, and here we have the path pattern. So this is how you can make patterns in Fusion 360.